Hello. Hi. Today I will be speaking to you in English language because I can, and because English has the advantage to be a lingua franca, meaning that it is a language that is commonly used and understood between speakers regardless of their native tongues. And I'm sure that the majority of you actually use English as the designated language for communication and education at your school. And I'm also pretty sure that the majority of you don't possess English language as your mother tongues. What it basically means is that you're not speaking at home with your parents or some of the family members. And based on these two assumptions, I can pretty much establish that you all are, one way or another, bilinguals. Well, I would say at least bilinguals. As bilinguals, you make conscious or subconscious choices on a daily basis. You choose one linguistic variety over the other depending on factors like who you are speaking to and your relationship with them, the subject of the conversation, social setting, and many more. Now, when I say linguistic variety, what I basically mean is language, dialect, register, or even style. So you basically choose one language over the other, one dialect over the other, register, and so on. However, even more complex are the many cases in which a bilingual meets another bilingual from the same linguistic background. For example, any Italian student meeting another Italian student at your school uses Italian as their mother tongue, however, they use English as a part of their school activities. And in cases like these, when these two people meet, it is often that the bilinguals take to switch from one variety to another in the course of a single conversation. This is called code switching. In fact, code switching is a very common practice among bilinguals and takes many forms. It affects everyone who is in contact with more than one language or dialect to a greater or lesser extent. For example, look at this excerpt. In this example, we have two men, Oscar and Peel, who are both African Americans. The example starts with Oscar, who is sitting on an empty bus at night while talking to his girlfriend on the phone. And we actually see him speaking a very standard English in line 01 to 03. Yes, I'm very sorry that I missed the last train. I apologize. I am sorry once again. Yes, the dinner is planned for 7 p.m. tomorrow, and after we will go to the theater. However, as soon as another person, Peel, gets on the bus and locks eyes with Oscar, Oscar suddenly switches registers. This can be seen in line 04 to 05. So I'm gonna get them theater tickets right now. I'm gonna get them right now. Yeah, dude, I'm gonna pick your ass up at 6:30. We also hear Peel using a very similar language to which Oscar just switched to in line 06 to 08. Sup, dog, I'm gonna be right there. Nah, man, I'm telling you, I'm gonna be right there. Just have something to do before. If we look more closely at Oscar's speech, he has a very prominent switching. In fact, he switches from English to what we call African American Vernacular, or abbreviated AAVE. So he switches from a very standard register to a non-standard register by using structures such as get them theater tickets right now, or pick your ass up at, was it 5:30, or using words like dude. And we actually also hear Peel using AAVE with words like dog, namen, or deleting consonant clusters in structures like ait, which is basically meaning all right. And at the end, we actually see Peel switching to a more standard register, more standard English. So my question is, what would you think is the reason behind the switching? Personally, I think it's their way of not standing out. Both of them use AAVE for a reason, and this is to kind of blend in, with this socially predisposed role of African Americans in American society, which is that of gang members, thieves, robbers, and so on. So we hear this with a comment by Peel at the end oh my God, Christian, I totally almost got mugged right now. So he uses as a sort of like a defense mechanism in order to blend in with the role that the society has of them. Now, I would like to tell you a little bit more about my own personal research, which is research on conversational code switching, specifically in a Slovak English community, and the types of code switching that I discovered that actually correlate with the more traditionally recognized types of code switching. In the community, I studied two main participants who were sisters. So in this conversation, E is the elder sister and N is the younger one. So here we see an example of tag switching, which usually uses switches that are fillers, interjections, idiomatic expressions, and so on. In this example, E is talking about having a dog, and her younger sister N is not paying attention to her. So in order to get N's attention, E uses the English tag right. So, hej, ale môžeš ho mať v dome, ale môžeš ho aj vyhnať von. Right, N? Another type of switching is intersentential code switching, which involves switching at the boundaries of sentences or clauses which require much more knowledge of the second language to produce. For example, E starts her thought in English while playing a game. Why do people just die? And then she switches to Slovak language in the following sentences. To, čo bolo, on ma rovno vyhodil odtiaľ. Lastly, intrasentential code switching, which includes switching occurring within a sentence. For example, E is commenting on N's belly. She starts her thought in English language and then finishes in Slovak language. Belly plop, chudá si jak toto, vidím každú tvoju kosť. It is also worthwhile mentioning that this type of code switching requires the most fluency since the switches need to be in accordance with the rules of syntax of both languages. Unfortunately, even though code switching generally happens among all bilinguals, it is sometimes stigmatized and perceived as an invalid way of interacting, sometimes even by bilinguals themselves. Some often regard it as a bad manners or lack of education. In fact, some early perceptions of bilingualism and code switching were very negative, often stating that bilingualism disadvantages an individual's intellectual development. Some even indicated that bilinguals lack linguistic competence and that it was probable for bilinguals to never acquire proper capability in either of the languages and kind of becoming semilingual. However, researchers nowadays recognize code switching as a functional practice and as a sign of bilingual competence. In fact, it is clear that code switching is a skill demanding a significant degree of ability in more than one language rather than a deficiency resulting from inadequate knowledge of one or the other language. Moreover, the present research on bilingualism demonstrates that there are advantages for bilingualism. For example, did you know that bilinguals actually have advantages in thinking, ranging from creative thinking to faster progress in early cognitive development and greater sensitivity in communication? Or that they are more sensitive when it comes to monitoring which language to use according to different situations? So, at this point, we know what it constitutes to be a bilingual, and that code switching is pretty much a natural consequence of bilingualism. We also know the different types of code switching. We know the benefits and advantages of bilingualism and code switching. And we also know that code switching in an interaction can function as a way to get someone's attention, to blend in, to highlight parts of an interaction. However, language is understood as a social notion, which basically means that it is a significant element of an individual's identity. And actually, many linguists argue that it should be perceived as a crucial part in constructing one's identity. So, here comes my question. If language is significant to an individual's identity, how does this affect a bilingual speaker? I mean, a bilingual speaker speaks two languages, right? Well, for a bilingual specific language choice can be also considered as an act of identity, and code switching can be used as a way to reconstruct and construct speakers' identities. Think of identities as fluid, multiple, and culturally and socially constructed. They can line up with pre-established categories, for example, gender or occupation, but they can also arise into existence through interaction. Moreover, identity can also involve the relationship between the speakers, such as family members or siblings, for example. Identity can also be relevant when it comes to the language choice in an interaction, to position oneself against or with the other speaker. For example, take a look at this example from my research. As I mentioned previously, I focus on a study of conversational code switching, and as you can see in comparison to the examples before, there are these weird signs and marks. These are the transcription symbols, and each has a specific meaning. For example, the dot in brackets in line 1 or in line 3 represents a pause in speech and its duration in seconds. Or capital letters mean raised voice. So, in this example, we have E and N again, and the code switching occurs because both speakers use differing languages. E is instructing N what to do while cooking, and despite the fact that E talks in Slovak language, N answers in English. So it can be simply stated that N does not accommodate it to E when it comes to language choice, meaning that she simply does not reply in Slovak but chooses to divert her speech by using English language. This may be because N does not like how bossy or commanding E is. For example, we can see this in line 1 or line 4, where E raises her voice at N. Therefore, N uses English to express her annoyance with E. Continuing from this established notion that N is using English language as kind of her way of expressing annoyance with E, how does the topic of identity then come into place? Well, looking at the example, it is possible that N is adopting English language in the interaction to distance herself from her Slovak identity and expresses her English identity. One crucial fact about N is that all of her close friends are English speakers. She, speaks to them in English in school, but she also speaks in English to them outside of school when they hang out. So for her, English language is kind of her way of communicating with her, people of the same age or roughly around the same age as her. So it is possible that by using English language, she kind of expresses her membership in the English-speaking community that she is a part of. So it is possible that for her, English and her English identity is related with the language of friendship or friends. And Slovak language is related, and her Slovak identity is related with the identity of the little sister, of the youngest child of the family. So everyone in her family, everyone who speaks in Slovak language in her life is older than her and has a certain authority over her. So it is possible that for her, Slovak language is associated with the language of someone who has authority over her. So we can see that people, bilinguals, or people who speak more languages, do adopt different identities. And after all this talk, you might have guessed that the theme when words collide, for me as a linguist, basically corresponds with bilingualism and code switching, meaning that for me, it basically means when languages collide and what effects that it has on a person. And I hope that you enjoyed this talk, and thank you very much.